Hello and welcome to this video about deployment of ad hoc iOS apps with a particular focus on apps developed with Delphi. I'm Dave Nottage, independent software consultant specializing in Delphi and an Embarcadero MVP. These instructions cover configuration and deployment to an iOS server, so if you are using some other kind of web server, you will need to consult the documentation for it. However, the basic concepts are the same. For deployment of ad hoc iOS apps, you will need to use a web server that has HTTPS enabled, which means you will need an SSL certificate for the domain that you're going to host on. I'm starting in File Explorer. I've created a folder called www, and under that, I've created a folder called Ad Hoc. This will contain the HTML for the download page and serves as the parent folder for any ad hoc apps I deploy. I've also created a folder called Awesome, which is also the name of the app I'm deploying. Under that, I will be copying the application and a special manifest file, which I will describe later. In iOS Manager, select the site you want to add the deployment to. First, let's set up the required file associations. Double-click Mime Types, click Add, enter IPA for the extension. In Mime Type, enter this value, which is included in the description below this video. Click OK. Click Add again, enter plist for the extension. In Mime Type, enter text/XML, then click OK. Next, I'll set up a virtual directory which will contain the download page, as well as the iOS apps and specialized manifest files. Right-click the site and click Add Virtual Directory. Give it a meaningful name. I'm calling this one Ad Hoc because it will serve as a starting point for all ad hoc apps deployed here. Then assign the physical path, which in my case is the folder that I created earlier. As described earlier, for deployment of ad hoc iOS apps, SSL is required, so if you have not done so already, you will need to add the HTTPS binding to the site. To do this, select the site, click Bindings, click Add. Select HTTPS as the type, enter the host, otherwise known as a domain name, select the SSL certificate that applies to the domain, and then click OK. Now I'll configure the Delphi project, build it, deploy it, and then copy the app to the web server folder. First, expand the iOS device platform target and ensure that the ad hoc configuration is selected by double-clicking it. Next, bring up the project options and select version info. I like to ensure that the all configurations, in my case debug and release, is selected because I use the same value for CF bundle identifier in the same app. This value should also match the app identifier you created for your app on the Apple developer site. Select provisioning and select a build type of iOS device 64-bit ad hoc. All things being well, and if you have PA server running on your Mac, the correct provisioning profile details should appear. Click Save. Next, ensure the application has been compiled. Then click Project, then Deploy, or use Ctrl-Alt-Shift-F9. Delphi then packages the application into an IPA file and puts it in the project output folder. Copy the IPA file, and if you have access to the web server folder, paste the file into it. Otherwise, use whatever means you have to copy the file to the relevant folder on your web server. A specialized manifest needs to be created, which contains information about the deployed application. A link to a template for this file is included in the description. I copy the manifest template to the same folder as the IPA file and rename it manifest.plist. I then replace the templated values with the real values. The IPA URL value is the fully qualified URL to the IPA file. The bundle ID value is replaced with the same value as CF bundle identifier in the project options of your Delphi app. The bundle version value is the same as the version number for your app. Replace the title value with a title for your app. Next, you will need a page that has a special link for your app. In my case, I created an HTML file called index.html so that it will be loaded by default if a user navigates to the alias I created. A link to a template HTML file is also included in the description. Each link pointing to an Ad-Hoc iOS app needs to use the protocol ITMS-services. This is recognized by Safari on Apple devices as being an installation link. The link also needs to have an action parameter of download-manifest and a URL that specifies the location of the manifest for the app. That completes the web server configuration. Now let's look at installing the app using the device. On an iOS device, and this part is very important, it needs to be a device that has been included in the device IDs for the Ad-Hoc provisioning profile. Navigate to the web server alias that has been configured for installs of Ad-Hoc iOS apps. Tap the link, then tap Install. At the time of this video, iOS does not appear to give any feedback as to whether the app is actually installing. However, if I switch away from Safari, I can see that the app has installed on the device and I can run it. That concludes this video on deploying Ad-Hoc iOS apps. Remember that links to the template files and related information are included in the description. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments, and thanks for watching.